Hey there, welcome to this quick tutorial for two-computer streaming using the NDI plugin for OBS. For this setup you're going to need two computers. One will be for game or content capture and you'll use the NDI plugin to broadcast this to a second computer. The second computer will handle the encoding and uploading of the stream to your streaming service of choice such as YouTube, Twitch, etc. Because the NDI plugin broadcasts uncompressed data to your second computer, it uses a fair bit of bandwidth, and for that reason it's preferable to use an Ethernet connection rather than Wi-Fi. So why would I use two PC streaming over a single computer? Generally this is used to reduce the load on your gaming or content computer, enabling you to have better FPS and responsiveness. Further, if your second computer is fast enough, you can increase the encoding quality to improve the fidelity of your stream. That said, if you do have a late model CPU with 6 or more cores, or a GPU that supports NVENC hardware encoding, you can probably stream from one PC with minimal impact on performance. Another two PC streaming approach is use of a capture card on the second computer to receive the display output from the first computer. This is similar to NDI, but you would have to purchase a capture card, whereas NDI is free. Step 1. Install the OBS application and the NDI plugin for OBS to both your gaming content computer and the encoding streaming computer. So this part of the process is really easy. Literally we're just downloading the OBS application and the NDI plugin to both of our computers and installing both of those installer packages. You can follow through the steps on screen, but it's literally really just showing you what it looks like when you browse to those websites, where to find the links, and it's 4 minutes of just running installers that you can click next through. So grab the links from down below in the comments and you can likely skip ahead to the next section. Okay, so that's the content PC, which will be the gaming computer. OBS and the NDI plugin has been installed, and now we'll move across to the streaming computer, second computer that will handle the encoding and uploading of the stream to YouTube or Twitch or so forth. And it's again just a matter of running the OBS installer for the application and then downloading and installing the NDI plugin for OBS, and the links are below. Okay, so we've got OBS and the NDI plugin installed on both of our gaming content PC and the encoding streaming PC. And we're ready to begin configuring OBS on our gaming content PC. So we run OBS and we'll get a firewall prompt, and we need to allow it access to private networks. And I'm going to skip the auto configuration wizard and do the settings manually. So we go to settings and we need to define our video resolution and frame rate. Normally you'd probably be using 1080p, 1920 by 1080. In this example I'm using virtual machines which have odd resolutions on them, so you can ignore that aspect, but typically for streaming it'd be 1080p or 720p. Next we have just added a display capture source for capturing the desktop, and I'm going to open a browser window to show something on this desktop so that we can see that the NDI broadcast is coming through. And lastly we go to Tools and NDI Output Settings to enable broadcasting of the source we've just set up. So whatever's displaying on this desktop will become visible on our streaming computer once we set up a NDI source on the streaming computer to receive that broadcast. So just bringing up a browser window so we can have something to see on this desktop. And lastly, in order to make sure that the broadcast from NDI does work properly, we check our network settings. I understand NDI doesn't work if you have your network connection set as a public network. It needs to be a private network, though private network is preferable anyway because you're likely in your own home network. So we set it to private, and then we will configure the firewall and security settings to make sure that OBS is allowed through the Windows Defender firewall. And we choose to allow an app through the firewall. In some cases it might already be enabled. And so now we've got the list of applications that are enabled, allowed through the firewall. And here we see OBS is there. And if you did need to change that, you would click on Change, make sure it's ticked on Private, and then OK to confirm it. In this case it was already enabled, so it was already going to work. And so that is the gaming PC setup. So we're now ready to move on to the streaming encoding PC to set that up to receive the NDI broadcast. So here we are on the encoding PC running OBS and choosing to do a manual setup, ignoring the auto configuration. Again, we need to define the video resolution, and this will match whatever you are broadcasting from your other computer. So if you selected 1080p at 30 FPS, you would want to be using the same values here. And lastly, we need to add a new source. We will choose the NDI source so that we can receive the broadcast from our gaming content PC. And in the source name here, we should see the name of the computer and the name of the source that we specified in the output settings from the Tools menu. So once we select that source, we should see a picture coming through. And as you can see, because I've got sort of odd video resolution settings, it's not filling the scene canvas completely. But if you were using a 1080p screen resolution on both your game PC and your encoding PC, it should just fit in exactly as it should into the scene. And that should hopefully be the process complete. If you're able to follow along the steps, You should now be seeing your NDI broadcast coming from your gaming PC to your encoding PC, and you're ready to configure your streaming service account so that you can go live with your stream. And lastly, I'll just cover the troubleshooting steps for if your NDI sources drop-down list appears blank. This seems to happen if your network profile had been set to public, or if OBS hasn't been allowed through the Windows firewall. From what I've read, the NDI plugin only works with private networks. So if you watch through the steps here, this shows you where to find those two settings, to set it as a private network and to enable OBS through the Windows Defender firewall. And one extra quick tip while we see where to find the Windows Defender firewall settings on screen is that if you do change the network profile or your firewall settings, make sure you do try restarting OBS. I have noticed that if you change these settings while OBS is still running, sometimes the broadcast doesn't come through. So be sure to make sure you've restarted the OBS application. And that's all there is to it. Thanks for watching and happy streaming.